It's part 2 of the Diomedes campaign in Total War Troy, or whatever the game's actually called. Last time we did pretty well absolutely annihilating Corinth, our initial enemy for the campaign. Then we had a new war against Ionia and Athens at the same time. We did lose some territory to Ionia, but we took down their main force and got it back, so now we're ready to push on and counterattack. Featuring now a specially trained axe unit. That's that special training system that just works in the background. We can gradually replace our main units with slightly better versions. I think it might cost a little bit more, but it's probably worth it, and you can recruit them anywhere, which is handy. So off we go towards the Ionians' only settlement right now, but on the way, the Athenians step in and get us into some trouble. They are somehow here at Corinth. I didn't see them coming. Not sure if they came by sea or if they had military access with Ajax, the guys we border there. But whatever the case, we have immediately lost Corinth once again, and that army will be in a decent position to go on and attack us some more. So with that in mind, we probably have to do something about that. Very inconvenient. I'm so close to taking down the Ionians that I did consider going on to finish off their settlement here. But I think they're at war with the Arcadians, that yellowish faction to their west. So they might just die anyway. We know they probably don't have much of an army. What we can do is get some resources from them, so we still get something out of this war. I'm going to ask for an extortionate peace deal, but then use this domination mechanic to make it seem less extortionate to them. So we lose 100 dominance here. In order to get tons of extra resources, I'm going to take all of their stone, because stone is one of the main barriers to building a lot of the decent buildings, especially early on in the campaign. So by getting those, you can get the resource generation buildings that give you more resources than the normal ones, but just cost more to build. Essentially meaning you can spiral up your economy early on if you get loads of stone early on. So that's why I prioritize getting stone, and often do trade for stone as well with other factions, but not really talking about that. As you can see, I moved back to deal with Athens, and right on time, because they immediately pile on into our next settlement, but now our main force is here. They've also reinforced themselves with an extra half or 2/3 of an army, so it's a balanced engagement right here. It's going to be a field battle because this is only a minor settlement, and when you're defending a minor settlement, for whatever reason you can't even defend the inside of it. So here we are standing just in the territory right next to the settlement. No particular defensible terrain or anything like that. I've set up in 3 groups. I've got all my spears on the left hand side, our main position here behind this river, and then our absolute trash from the town garrison just hiding off to the right to see if they'll come in useful later. The battle starts with a Slinger Exchange, fine by me, we have way more slingers, and then the two sides just absolutely run at each other. Nothing particularly complex going on here. Our axemen have a bit of a charge bonus, and we're fighting ever so slightly downhill, so maybe that's a good thing. There are a couple of club units in the enemy line though, which are strong against axes. Our main advantage is that our spear line is not engaged at all, so they're rushing in for the rear attack, but the enemy's second army is also rushing in. So we do need to be careful and not get counter-encircled here. Both sides have plenty of reserves to commit to this fight. Here's my trash units, and they're going to be quite useful for this battle, simply because there's no penalty to losing these guys. They just respawn for free after the fight. So I might as well sacrifice them to stop quite a few of the enemy's reinforcing units. With that, the main fight is going to be easier for us to win, and we're already clearing up certain parts of it. That's starting to look good. We'll benefit from having all of our slingers standing around, because they can shoot into these blobs or up and over these blobs and just whittle the enemy down. We are playing with Radius mod, and one of the claimed differences is that battles last longer, which will mean doing tactics where you're shooting into prolonged melees will be more effective in this mod. There's a great example where one of our heroes has got a load of enemies just standing in the river trying to attack him. Most of them can't because he's such a small entity, and they're just prey for our slingers. Looks like Diomedes is getting to work against an enemy hero somewhere off on the right. That's all going well. and we're starting to get somewhere in this battle at this stage. As units are retreating from this river, our hero is still going strong, the slingstones falling absolutely everywhere, and check out the river itself, absolutely running red with blood in this battle because so much of the fighting took place actually in the river. I mentioned last time that this making the water turn red seems like a mechanic that would rarely actually come up since there aren't many maps where you fight in water, but so far we've seen it quite a lot for whatever reason. I guess this particular map is good for fighting in the water. We've killed an enemy hero, the enemies are mostly in retreat, it's time to finish this thing off. We also got pretty lucky in this battle because not only did our sacrifices not really die, but a lot of the enemy's ranged units got caught in an infinite skirmish. I just had 1 or 2 units running after them. Normally they would fan out and kill the units you have pursuing them. In this case they all ran in the same direction, so the skirmish just goes on forever, and they are effectively defeated in that they can't participate in the battle while they're doing that. Here my slingers are doing some friendly fire-tastic final attacks on this one last enemy unit that's any threat to us. Everything else is getting out of here. We need to play the rest of the battle and chase them down to get the full complement of kills. Here is the final result. It says it's a close victory, but it is lying again. Our army is looking pretty good. Very minimal damage. A lot of our damage was taken on the sacrificable garrison. The enemy army, absolutely trash. That fight went pretty much perfectly. We then need to strike back at once. Accidentally hit the fight battle button as I went to take on the survivors after the battle. But check out this loading time. Some of the veteran OFID fans might remember that loading time is one of my big annoyances in Total War. This one's pretty good, takes only a few seconds, although that is with the SSD install rather than the regular hard drive, which makes a pretty big difference for most games. So we somehow managed to win this battle after taking down the enemy. That was fine. Then we go on for a one-sided auto-resolve at Corinth. Thus, we get it back. So in the end, this cheeky invasion by Athens didn't really do too much damage, but it did cost us some economic progress, and it probably cost us the occupation of the Ionian capital, which we would have by now if Athens had just stayed over here. So after that battle, I'm immediately thinking, let's go and attack Athens and take something from them. I liked the look of this island and this coastal settlement because we're going to need bases out on the islands soon enough. There's all sorts of island hopping shenanigans that will likely come up if this goes anything like my previous Troy campaign. So we'll get sorted on that. I need to make, though, a second army at home to guard my territory while the main force sails off and is many turns away from the rest of our settlements. This means we do need to rely on some RNG. We need an officer to generate who won't be annoyed at being in a garrison and preferably likes being in a garrison. I really don't like it when you can't get a good officer to just be a garrison, especially for public order control. I quite like the whole system of them having preferences. I just wish all of them wouldn't mind standing around defending territory or building up their army for a while without getting sad about it. Now as we move on, we hit this new war. It's just Mycenae attacking the Ionians. This is a bad situation for us though, because whatever option we pick diplomatically, we're in trouble. We have to either betray Mycenae or betray Ionia because we're in a ceasefire with them. I side with Mycenae, so that's going to be a very easy war for us, but now we're going to have -20 diplomacy with all factions due to being untrustworthy for breaking that deal, and that's a pretty big amount countering our dominance bonus in cases where we can use that. I accidentally complete an epic mission. Those are the things you need to do to complete the campaign. Haven't even looked at what they are because we are playing things fast and loose, but if I ever accidentally complete one or actually go after one of them, I'll talk about it. Now we have the chance to side with the Greeks in the Trojan War. We're probably going to want to do that. You can be a bit more edgy and not really side with them or just put the decision off. But I thought let's just go down the straight and narrow. This will essentially mean that a couple of the other factions who have the Danaan Pillar faction trait will like us, and the game says they'll never betray us, which sounds good, so I guess we can call them into wars all the time or something. We'll give that a go. We've skipped forward a fair bit. Diomedes is now in Athens' territory, replacing some of our lower quality axemen with slightly better ones. I was checking the stats and I'm not quite sure what my training does. I think it was something to do with the vigor trait they get. They have slightly higher stats as well, but that might be because they come out of training just at a higher level, which increases your stats as well in the background. It's better than nothing at the very least, so we've got that on other factions. I was going to go for the island base to the southeast, but somebody else took it, so instead we're attacking this mainland port. It's packed with stuff, it's got a full stack of regular troops garrisoned here, but we have better troops and we have a more important advantage, the attacker's initiative, in that we're the player and they're defending a minor settlement, meaning the AI will stand around for a bit, giving us a chance to attack them freely. We even had a little bit of a hill we could stand on to sling our way forwards. One possible counter they could do to stop us from doing this to them is to put all of their archers on the outside of the town and shoot back. And they were there on the outside, but archers don't have as much range as slingers, so once again slingers coming out on top. Now we just wait and admire the skybox for a bit, and when we come back, the enemy should be more dead than before. They did try another trick. They put their nearly dead archers inside this unit of guys with shields, accidentally most likely, but that does actually help because the shields on the other unit will block the attacks. Still, not going to do all that much in the long run. We've got plenty of ammo to keep hammering away. That unit actually dared to fire back at us, but as punishment they're going to get wiped out. Another unit of archers came up to get killed as well, but then we finally triggered the AI to actually come outside of the settlement, so this can happen. I don't know why it didn't happen earlier in the campaign. It's different in different Total Wars, whether they will strictly be stuck on one side of the map in a settlement assault. Looks like in this one, they can come outside. So in reaction, I'm going to immediately run away to make sure the fight isn't on that hill and in any way to their advantage. We can have it on the nice flat ground behind it, and it's going to be a fight that's in multiple parts. We've got this central part where our spear line will just block the enemy attacks, and we've got our axes on the flanks. This will be where the action happens, because while the enemy are also attacking our flanks, not quite enough. We've got them outflanked there on the left. On the right, it's less advantageous, but we're still going to have an advantage. It's just a 2-on-2 fight, but our two units are better than theirs, so in a straight up frontal grind we'll be fine. I think those units are our ones with the special training through our faction's unique mechanic. We've also got a bit of a maneuver happening there on the right. We'll make a small rear attack. So that's that really. Everything is committed now, and we wait to see to what extent either side gets killed. We've also got Diomedes going after one of the enemy's two heroes over here on the right. He gets this massive beam coming down from the heavens, so perhaps he is favoured by the gods. I think that happens sometimes when you use a special ability. Looks pretty neat, but we're going to win that fight regardless. However, we're not going to win here in the centre, where the enemy's hero and the bulk of their infantry are absolutely annihilating us there. I actually noticed it in a miraculous twist and pulled the slingers back to not be so close to that fight. Ideally, we don't want the slingers to get drawn in so we can keep shooting into it. Now that our troops aren't in the way, the slingers' attacking potential will actually go up. On the right, looks like we're about to win this situation. We defeated one unit, and that means we'll rapidly defeat the other one. So those units will be able to run over and help later, but that will take a while. We're going to be relying on these slingers, and they're going to do quite a lot of good work here, because in the centre the enemy have a load of the young spears unit, the one with no shield, meaning they take more damage to slings than most units. Plus, many of the units are going to have their flanks facing to us, and that only gets worse as they actually finish off my men here, because they could run towards our slingers and take them down. For the most part though, they go to the sides to join the fights further along the line, meaning plenty more exposed flanks where shield bonuses don't always count. These slingers are going to be doing quite a lot of damage, and once things like the young spears are like at half health, they'll just rout anyway, so that will thin them out. Meanwhile, the left flank is now looking good. We've totally won the extreme left, and we're coming in to finish off the centre left. And in the middle, the slings just did their thing. We drove the enemy away with a massive bombardment, and while there's still a moderately sized blob of enemies here, they're going to start suffering from the army losses morale penalty, because everything down the other wings is now dead. I probably sent Diomedes after their hero at some point, can't quite remember, but he's not there causing shenanigans anymore. This battle is suddenly looking good as stuff's routing all over the place. We don't have to chase routing units in this fight because it's a settlement assault. Another advantage to doing these battles, they're just faster in real life since you skip the final stage. And there we go, a close victory, but not all that close. We did lose one full unit, that's the loss that counts, but the enemy lost more than a stack of troops. This is a big loss for Athens, and of course it gives us this base, which we can use to attack the rest of Athens' stuff. Unfortunately, the recruitment options here aren't too good, so our spearman unit will be replaced with a worse one for now. But yes, we could go on towards Marathon and Athens, which we'll do in the next turn. Here we are at Marathon making this attack. The garrison's not that big, so I just go for the auto-resolve here. We do lose another unit because it was already weakened from the last fight. A shame, but at this stage we don't really need a strong army on this front because Athens are pretty much dead. Soon we'll be able to go back and use my recently built next tier of recruitment buildings to get an entirely better army, and we'll get rid of most of what we have here. When it comes to taking Athens, it looks like it's actually going to be our allies that do it. They've got a big enough stack here to just auto-resolve it in their next turn. Not looking good for our prospects of taking it. As for the Ionian War going on in the background, the Arcadians won it for us, and that's a bit of a shame really, because we could have done with more territory around our core region. We're actually one of the smaller factions now in Greece, which kind of sucks. At this stage we're allied into so many other factions that our territory realistically is going to be random bits and bobs all over the place. A very suboptimal setup, but it does make the game more challenging. We're approaching the point of not being at war with anyone once Athens goes downtown, and we can't be having that, so it's time for some more wars to randomly start. We've got this faction controlling a bunch of islands to the north. That comes out of nowhere with the war declaration. Fine, we accept that. I didn't call my allies into that one, but I am going to call them into this one that also starts during the same end turn sequence. One of the random factions up near the middle has declared war, and they are going to be calling in an ally of theirs. It's the faction just to their right. I only didn't call in my allies in the other war because there's a chance they'll not like you or even leave you if you force them into wars. Here though, it's going to be very useful to have them on board so we can cluster together against those guys coming down from the north, a vague north-south conflict going on. Our allies also have Athens pretty much on lockdown here. This army they have might not be enough to take it if they mess this up. They might not cluster those troops together enough and not be in reinforcement range or something, so there's still a tiny bit of hope we could somehow get it later. But for now I'm more concerned with the fact that one of our new enemies is already apparently sailing a stack down towards us. I was considering going out because there's a naval choke point where we could probably engage them, but at sea I can't remember if this game makes you auto-resolve or not. It might be one of the games where it just gives you a land battle somehow. I ultimately didn't try to block them, and also they don't appear to have turned towards us. It looks like their army is actually going somewhere else. But more close to home, there are some surprise annoyances. There are actually 2 enemy armies nearby, including a full stack of 20 that's over at Corinth. So again in this campaign, randomly getting surprise attacked at Corinth seems to be a recurring theme. Here's a quick example of a bit of bartering, which I'm doing quite a lot, but it's just nice when you can do this. A lot of the time the AI will ask you for something. If you just ask for a better deal, they usually accept it and there's no consequence, so just a little bit of annoying micro will get you some extra resources there. So now we've got this annoying situation where I need to get back to Corinth with my main force, but to get there over land I need to go through Salamis, Ajax's territory. He won't give me military access, in large part due to the fact I'm untrustworthy for breaking my peace treaty with the Ionians, so it's coming back to bite us. Now I can only go back by sea, which will take a couple of turns. Generally speaking, we're not going to get back in time to stop that army right there, but we do have my backup army, which, because we now know that something's about to happen, we can move to Corinth in time to defend it. Along with the garrison, we'll have quite a lot of trash there, so that's not the end of the world. As for the main force, I decided to sort of leave it in the sea near our port and just watch that other stack. The risk is that if we actually go back now with Diomedes, that stack will immediately take our 2 settlements over there, and that will just generally suck. So I want to take down that stack before I do anything else major with the main force. This whole war's pretty annoying actually, because their territory is really far away. It's either a long naval voyage or it's on the other side of places I don't have military access through. So getting any territories out of this war is going to be difficult for us. Really the best we can do is kill their armies, embarrass them, and get them to peace out and give us some resources or something in exchange, and then try to be in wars that are a little bit closer to us and maybe might get us some territory. But as mentioned earlier, with all of our alliances, we've kind of screwed ourselves over in terms of having a coherent body of territory. We're going to have to go and search some random islands to attack or something, and there might even be a Trojan War at some point, so we'll keep an eye out for that. Join me to see what we can make of this in the next part of the Diomedes campaign.